Oops,
Oh,
we lost Dennis.
Oh, that was weird.
Fearless leader disappeared.
yeah, we'll give him a minute
I'll
to
be right back.
come back.
You know, I know our video's working because we're on the same network.
And Lisa just got in. So.
Okay. Where's Lisa? I don't see her.
Yeah, I don't
She hasn't
see either.
joined yet, but she just got
Okay.
in the office.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I apologize for the brief blink. The internet was unstable here for a moment. But as soon as Commissioner Rona gets back to her screen, I think we'll call the meeting to order.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, I want to welcome the public, either currently in attendance or viewing this in the future, to the October 24th, 2024 meeting of the Somerville Fair Housing Commission. Pursuant to Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, this meeting of the Somerville Fair Housing Commission will be conducted via remote participation, the internet cooperating. We will have an audio recording available upon request as soon as possible after the meeting. So I would like to check with my fellow commissioners if it's okay to call the meeting to order. Janine?
Sure.
I'll second.
And Rona says also, okay, so the meeting is called to order. And our first item is to review the draft minutes that our able staff person Shannon sent us from the meeting on September 26, 2024. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. And I'll second as written.
Okay, Janine moves, Rona seconds. I make it unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Okay, going to our standing agenda items. The Somerville Fair Housing Commission has a Facebook page. If you go to Facebook and search for Somerville Fair Housing Commission, all one word, you should find that page. We generally post a fair housing question of the week on Friday and an article relating to fair housing issues on Monday and occasional other posts. Since our last meeting, a couple of the articles that got the most attention, I should say a couple of the posts that got the most attention. Our Monday post that got the most attention was about AI, essentially.
Oh, wow.
It was about screening technology and the way that it can be used consciously or unconsciously to discriminate against renters on the basis of protected classes, which is, of course, not fair housing. So 63 people out there saw that article and 5 were impressed enough to share it with other folks. Our fair housing question of the week that got the most attention was about 2 of the protected classes. People are protected from discrimination on the basis of sex, but also on the basis, and this is the language in the law, on the basis of sexual preference. And somebody asked about the difference between the two. And as defined in the law, sex is, whether you were male or female or something else, and that whether that was assigned at birth or as you currently identify. And sexual preference is more about the people that you form relationships with, and both of those are protected classes. So discriminating against people because they're female, they're non-binary or because their partner is female or male or not, is against the Fair Housing Act. So those are the
Uh-oh.
He's freezing again. You're back.
yes, again, sorry for the internet problem, but yeah, I was just going to say those were the most viewed posts in the last month and most shared. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Nope.
Seeing none, I'd like to go to Shannon to tell us about calls and complaints received since the last meeting.
Yeah, so we've had 4 fair housing complaints received since the last
Okay.
meeting, which I think is quite a few, considering the last 2 months we didn't get any. So we had one that was a referral from OHS. I think that there was a bit of confusion there. It was the landlord telling them that they needed to leave by the end of October, and they didn't have enough money to cover rent, which is more of a landlord-tenant dispute and falls under OHS. I did speak with them using an interpreter, and we determined that it's not a fair housing issue. The second one was a constituent who's a homeowner saw a flyer in Somerville that said join a BIPOC co-op. The flyer included a QR code that couldn't be opened by the person submitting the complaint. I was able to open the QR code. It didn't have any contact information for the people posting the advertisement. It just had a Google form to fill out if you wanted to apply. But it also included language that could be seen as age discrimination as well. It specified young adults and gave an age range of 26 to 40 years old. So the outcome of that was that the constituent, because he's a homeowner, didn't want to file a discrimination complaint because he's not searching for housing, but he did want the commission here to be aware of the language that was used on the flyer, and to expand educational outreach to prevent future instances of potentially discriminatory language. So I don't know if anyone wants to talk about that before I move on to the other two. But...
Just a question. If it was like an outreach flyer,
Hold on.
right?
And then Rona.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry. I'm bad about that. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Janine. You go first.
Just if it were like an outreach flyer, is it considered breaking fair housing law if they're reaching out to a certain population? The group was about housing, correct? I mean, it was a housing focused outreach flyer.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, I believe it would be, or at least it seemed to me that it could be breaking fair housing law, because I mean, I'm not for sure because I didn't do a full investigation into it and I can't, but based on the QR code that I opened up when they were talking, they gave a list of who lives in the house currently. And then they gave specifications of who they want to apply, and they specified by race and color as well as by age, which are
got it. I thought it was just a flyer for like a group meeting, like say at the library to discuss something.
Yeah, it was for housing specifically. Yeah.
Very confused. Okay, perfect. I got it.
Yeah, it falls in that same category of you can't say, looking for 20 women. 20
now it makes more sense to me.
And it's sort of funny that it's it's in that fallacy of reverse discrimination, because it's basically saying no white people, but it's still discriminatory. And what I was going to ask is, did they send you a snapshot of the flyer?
Yes, they did. Yeah,
because it might be worth taking a picture of that and using it when we do the create something like that, and for the tabling, that no, you can't do that. And it's the same kind of pressure that people have had where, you know, if you have roommates, you really want to have roommates that are like you.
That you like, yeah.
But how do you advertise for roommates that are like you without hitting all the protected classes? And it's, you know, it's a problem, but it's the exact same problem of I don't want a gay couple upstairs.
Right.
And frankly, it's none of their business. And it's not fair housing. So I'll cede the floor to Lisa.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to add a little bit, and Shannon may have said this, and I'm sorry, I'm getting back from one meeting into another meeting.
Mhm.
But anywho, what was the flyer was really for cooperative housing, and I
Mhm.
think you know there are exemptions to the fair housing law, where it says that if it's you're allowed to, if it actually is designated for a population. So Shannon and I had a conversation about the cooperative, like we would have to see, is it really a truly cooperative housing? Do they have rules? And they want to be able to have so many people at whatever ethnicity and or race, because they were renting to other white households. This was like, they couldn't rent to a white household. So it sounds weird. So it was one of those things that Shannon and I did discuss, like, you know, if we were to investigate, we would have to actually see, is it a co-op? What are the rules around the co-op? Is it recorded in their at the deed or something on what sort of, how the co-op would be made up? So I just wanted to add that in there because it sounds very discriminatory the way it was written, but it was also a cooperative house. I think I'm saying that word right. Am I saying that word right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was one of those things where we can't confidently say, but it really did read as if it was discriminatory.
Got
And
it.
Commissioner Rona.
Yeah, I think this is going to take a little more research, but a lot of people throw around the term cooperative to mean there's 5 roommates. And cooperative is a different thing. It has like state paperwork.
Yeah.
And my intuition, and I need to look it up, is I think that if you have the state paperwork, I don't think there are exemptions as much as you have to make sure that you're not discriminating. Because there's some very large cooperative institutions. I mean, we've got a co-op apartment building in Central Square, Cambridge, that has 80-something units. And cooperatives in New York City have had all kinds of trouble with discrimination. Because they get to pick who gets to live there, and they have to be very clear that it's not about the protected classes.
Right. No, I have definitely run into renting situations where what they meant by cooperative was, oh, we make the schedule for who cleans the toilet, and we share some of the food that's in the refrigerator, and I don't think that's what's, you know, meant under rules. Can I make a request? You know, and this is not urgent, but it would be great if we could have staff do some research on this and clarify it, and then we could include it on the Facebook page as a fair housing question. And as Commissioner Ronan was saying, possibly, you know, when we do educational tabling, if we knew for sure what we were talking about and what the rules were, you know, that might be another example we could use. So, again, no hard deadline on that, but it would be great if it could be on the to-do list.
Yeah, definitely. I can do that.
Okay, and before you go on with the other items, I want to welcome Commissioner Patrice Faulkner to the meeting.
Yay.
We're glad to have. It means that 4 of the 5 commissioners are in attendance. We'll wait to see if Commissioner K. Emo can make it, but as the commission was previously informed. She's having, there's a family member who's having some severe medical problems, and Kay is out in Ohio right now and hoped to join us remotely, but you know, we all understand that family has to come first. So
Mhm.
we will hope to get her here either today or sometime in the future. So that being said, Shannon, can we go back to you for the other two
Yeah.
calls or complaints?
Yeah, so the next one was also a referral from OHS. This one was a little bit more clear cut, I think. So it was a staff member with OHS was working with an applicant, and the applicant was denied housing by an agent on behalf of a landlord. The agent explicitly stated that the landlord was not accepting Section 8 vouchers over email. And then the agent engaged in what could be considered steering as well by directing the tenant to another area that said they would accept Section 8 vouchers there. This did happen in Cambridge, so it was referred to me because the person working with them is an OHS staff, and the applicant lives in Somerville currently, but because the discrimination happened in Cambridge, and I guess luckily we have written record of it, it was referred over to the Cambridge Human Rights Commission because they also have enforcement abilities. So I thought it was a good idea to keep it over there. And then I am following up, and the OHS staff member are following up on this case as the process moves along, just to see how the applicant is doing and how it goes at the end. And then the last one, this was submitted by a current renter on behalf of 3 applicants to his unit. So he vacated the unit and has been trying to fill it and sending applicants to the landlord. And the landlord has refused to rent to 3 applicants, 2 of which have Section 8 vouchers and 1 has other rental assistance. I think it's Raft. The landlord's not an owner occupant, so no exemptions apply there. I referred him over to Suffolk University testing program, and then I requested that the applicants be sent my information so that if they want to file a fair housing complaint with MCAD, they're able to. So I can help them with that, or at least tell them about that process. So the person who filed the complaint said that they would call Suffolk University and follow up with me once they did. And then they said that so we discussed it and determined that if Suffolk is able to do their testing program, after all of that is done, then I might call the landlord to like teach them about, who they are allowed to or not allowed to deny, and that source of income discrimination is part of fair housing law. And then I'll also try to assist the applicants in learning about filing a complaint with MCAD if they're interested in doing that, and if he can get their contact information again. So
You muted.
Dennis, you're muted.
Commissioner Rona, question for Shannon.
Just a side comment that since we have evidence of alleged discrimination by somebody who's a professional, it reminded me that there was a very large lawsuit adjudicated in Alabama that involved Fairway Mortgage Group.
Yeah.
And Fairway does practice in Somerville and throughout Eastern Massachusetts, all over the country, really, but they are here. And it just seems like professionals should know better. So as the professional real estate person on the commission, I want to say that yes, in fact, this month, a national mortgage company got busted. And I applaud the getting busted.
And Commissioner Rono dropped a link to that story into the chat. So if anybody wants to take a look at it there, it's available to them.
Yeah.
Thank
and
you.
You can just Google Fairway Mortgage discrimination, and then the word that pops up is lawsuit.
Right. Patrice or Janine, any thoughts on these last couple of complaints that we heard about?
No.
No.
If not, Shannon, I noticed in the very detailed minutes that you took, you reminded us that that last month there were no complaints, and this month there are 4. And the question that came up last month was, do we have any sense of what like a typical load is? And I don't know if you've had a chance to look into that yet.
Yeah, I did. So I looked at the last 5 years. I stopped at fiscal year 2020 to see how many complaints we got per month. So I'll just go over it briefly, but it looks like in the last 5 years, I didn't include this fiscal year because we've only gone through a few months, so I didn't want it to be skewed by that. But we got the most complaints in July. There was a total of 13 complaints in different Julys. Then January had a lot of complaints, so there was a total of 10 in those 5 years, and June was third with 9 total complaints. So I would say, and then the lowest month was December. It only had 1 total complaint over those years, and April also only had 3. So I can go over all the months if you want.
No, that's all right. I think that gives us a good sense.
Okay.
Any comments from the commissioners?
No, those dates match when people were negotiating.
Thank you very much for taking a look
apartments.
at that. And this is not on the agenda, but they do. Now this is unrelated, but Shannon, in an email, you and I think Lisa also helped clarify the status of the lead paint program. I had been looking at a question of the week that related to the city's program to help people de-lead, and the information that I had was out of date. So could you quickly bring us up to date on that?
Yeah, so now the lead abatement program is wrapped up into the new home improvement program. So it focuses on health and safety adjustments or fixes to houses. And I can provide the link, but if you look up home improvement program Somerville, that's what lead abatement falls under. And we have a wait list right now, but it's prioritized based on the need and not based on when people apply. So lead abatement is pretty high up in a priority.
And Lisa, please weigh in.
I just want to also add, the old lead abatement program, the unit, the residents in the unit that had the lead paint or wanted the lead paint abatement were the only households in the property that needed to be income eligible. But now that we're using a different pot of money, which is CDBG, Community Block Grant money, the property has to be determined eligible. So if we're only looking at one household in a three unit in a 3-family, 2 of those 2 have to be determined income eligible, even though we're only doing work in one of the units, and that is federal guidelines. So it's different, but we are still focused on lead paint. And anybody who's coming into the home improvement program, we are doing lead inspections right off the bat.
Well, thank you for clarifying that. And can you, before I call on Commissioner Rona, can you also mention what kinds of assistance are available to people through the lead abatement program?
So it's not, I need to clarify, it's not the lead abatement program, it's through the home improvement program. Again, funded through the CDBG. It's a totally different pot of money. we are focused. We have a pre-screening tool, and the pre-screening tool is really focused on the first is code violations through ISD. When home ISD went out, and inspectional service department went out and fined somebody because of code violations. So they're the first ones. And then comes the lead paint abatement program. So if somebody's coming in, somebody's applying for assistance who has a household, who has a child under the age of 6, they're a little high, they're a higher priority than those who don't have any children in the household. And then we go down to the moderate rehab programs, you know, like a roof repair or replacement. And, you know, then we look at who needs to be repaired because it's just old and needs to be repaired, or it's actually leaking and causing more health and safety issues around the house. And we kind of go through it that way. But anybody who's applying for it, because of the pot of money that we had, like I said, the property has to be determined eligible. So if it's a single family, the residents and occupying the unit has to be income eligible. If it's a 2-family, 50% of the units have to be income eligible. And if it's a 3-family or more, at least 51% of those units have to be income eligible. So we've just launched it. It's going to be interested to see sort of how we're going to get those the other households and multi-families, the other tenants' willingness to provide us with the income documentation to make the property eligible. But we're going in because I'm sorry. I was going to say.
Well, go ahead, Lisa.
I was going to say, because the federal guideline says that if we're putting any money over $2,500, I think it is, the property needs to be inspected for lead. If we're putting anything over $25,000, that lead needs to be abated before we start doing any other repairs.
So that's very thorough, and thank you. And I'm sure that people listening would be interested in knowing, is it tenants, owners, or both who are eligible? And is the help in the form of partial or total subsidies, or is it in loans?
So it's in the form of loans. Tenants and owners. Wait, Lisa, can you mute? Sorry. Tenants and owners can apply. It does ultimately go back to the owners having to sign the mortgage when they get the loan. And then the loans vary based on the type of work done. So for health and safety changes, then it's up to $50,000 per unit. And then that's for the period of affordability, because it is an income restricted program and it has restrictions on the amount of rent that can be charged. Period of affordability is the life of the loan. So these are 50-year loans. Then for lead paint hazards or lead paint abatement, it's $7,500 per unit. And these are 5-year forgivable loans. I believe, Lisa, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they're forgiven at a rate of 20% a year. And the period of affordability for those is 5 years. Sometimes lead abatement costs more than that, and they can pull from that other loan, the $50,000, in which case they still have to follow the terms of the $50,000 loan. And then there's also heating system replacement and repair, which is a little bit lower on priority. And it's up to $15,000. Also a 5-year forgivable loan.
So I hope the commissioners don't mind that I put this into the discussion. It just seemed like people out there would want to know about it, and it was useful for us to be brought up to date. Commissioner Janine, please.
Yeah, I don't know. For
you have
me,
your hand up. Go ahead.
I'm not muted, right? I'm okay. I think okay. So I don't know if anyone else is concerned, but the change from unit to property makes me a little bit nervous, only because, like, you know, if there's a young couple with a baby or someone, you know, or a child under 6, and the unit is found to have lead, before, if the family were eligible income wise, there would be some lead abatement. If I'm understanding, that was my understanding. And now, like, you know, if whoever lives in that other unit, it has, you know, enough money that they might not income qualify, what happens? Because that seems like a loss.
Yeah, that's a great question. Unfortunately, because of the funding source, we can't change that. That
No,
is a
I'm just, that's
requirement
very
for the
concerning.
funding. But what
Okay.
we're gonna do, what we do is make the appropriate referrals to the other programs that are out there within within the state to assist those households with lead abatement.
Got it. Okay, as long as
Those
there's
are
something
the
to do.
program. Yeah, I don't know the programs off the top of my head, or else I'd share them. The home improvement program coordinator and home improvement program manager both know those programs, and then they do offer the referrals.
Excellent. Thank you for answering that.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Rona, and then I hope we'll be able to move on after this.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor this too long, but similar problems are happening with the Homebridge program in Cambridge. Because the properties that are being put into the affordable trust there have to be totally lead abated. And it includes the exterior, and that becomes really dicey with multiple units. So one of my agents was working with a Homebridge buyer who, there was a perfectly lovely place, but it had a wrought iron fence that had lead paint on it, and it made the property not manageable. So it's, you know, again, when you're dealing with funding, it's the rules that you get, and you have to deal with it.
Well, thank you, everybody, for this. It was a much more complicated topic than I had imagined. And I think the bottom line is that if people out there are in need of help with home improvement, and specifically with lead abatement, that they should talk to the staff at the housing division and see what can happen. So thanks again for that. So I'm going to suggest we move on to item 3 on our agenda, which is continued business, specifically about annual reports. And I think we can probably cover that pretty quickly.
Yeah, so for the fiscal year 24 annual report, that's the same as it has been. The anticipated completion date, we're hoping for January of 2025. We're going to start working on that soon. Lisa, I don't know if you have anything else on that. Otherwise, I'll move to okay. So for the fiscal year 23 annual report, I submitted that to City Council on Legistar, is the program that they use. So first it gets sent through several layers, but it was sent by Housing Division to the mayor and City Council. So the Housing Division director is working on it getting sent to the mayor. He's in contact with the mayor's office about how we need to get that to them. And then we're hoping that it will go in front of City Council at the next meeting, or if not, then the one after that. But yeah, I don't think that I don't think that any of you need to send it directly to the mayor or City Council. I think that it needs to go through Housing Division is the big update there.
Thank you. And we'll be interested to hear what kind of reception it gets and what sort of questions might be raised when people read it. So with the permission of the other commissioners, I'd like to go to the item about future events for fair housing education. And there are 3 sub items on that, which I think are probably all related. So I'm going to mention them together. Planning for April, which is Fair Housing Month, planning for tabling events at other times and places, and online education and outreach. So let me throw it open for discussion there. Rona.
Okay, so I think job 1, if we're going to do April, is figuring out whether we want to go back and see if we can get the marketing help that we signed up for last time. And if we do, I'm pretty sure Shannon has it in the files from when we did it last year, and it won't take that much to update it. Because all we're gonna do is update it and say that we did it without you last April, and we also did tabling since then. And here's some pictures. So I think we have it written out already. So my sense is we probably want to bring that out to everybody, you know, bring the notes from last time out to everybody and see what kind of updates we want to do and get that back in. So just because if we can get the marketing information, we should. And probably this month or next month, we need to fix a date for April.
Thank you. Other suggestions and thoughts? Patrice?
Do we know when the next, do we know when the next, what was it? It was like the Civics, Somerville, Civics Day that kind of coincided with last year's event. Can we plan for it to be like, the week before or the week after?
Mhm.
So like short question, longer, long question, short. Do we have a list of the Somerville 2025 activities? Do we have kind of a calendar yet? For the, no? Rhoda, I see you say no.
I also, from our experience of the last 2 years, I think doing a book discussion on a weekend day is fruitless. And we need to do 2 weekday evenings. So it won't directly clash the way it did last year.
Rona, were you thinking virtual or hybrid?
I wasn't thinking yet. Do
Okay.
you have a suggestion?
Maybe, I don't know, maybe we could do something hybrid at the library if they have like, if they have the technology available or another
They-
space.
I don't think they do. I think what they do is they run it off a laptop, so it's awkward.
Hmm.
They don't
I
have
wonder
an
if we had
owl.
our own screen. Yeah, no.
When Todd gave his talk last year, was that considered hybrid? Yeah, excuse my illiteracy in this area, but because I think it was off of the laptop, but I do think that there were people watching remotely.
Right, there are people watching, but when you go to have a conversation,
Got it. Okay,
It's
that makes sense.
it's very
There's a
awkward.
distinction. Yeah, got it.
And an owl is a technology that makes it so the people who aren't in the room can see the people in the room and see the speaker. And it just makes it more seamless, but that thing is like a $1,200 thing and we don't own it as a city.
I'm going to call
I
on
wonder
myself
if-
for a moment.
Mhm.
As I recall, our contact at the library who was running it through the laptop would check in the chat and see if there were questions that were posed there, and she would bring them to the panel when you had a speaker or a panelist, which is, it's less interactive than something like this, for instance, but that I think is still a possibility. Patrice, you were going to say.
I don't know. I was just thinking out loud. I wonder if we had like multiple laptops, one that had a camera that could focus on someone that was speaking. We could physically move it around. And also if there was a screen, if we had an HDMI cable that could run from a laptop to a way to project upon the screen, it could be hybrid that way.
That's possible.
It may be a little piecemeal or ad hoc, if you will. But maybe that could work.
They have that technology because we've shown segregated by design on the big screen from a laptop, so I know we have that. So that's possible. So the question is, do we continue to do The Color of Law, or have we beaten that one to death?
I wonder if we can do a book that is a little bit more controversial. That could, like, I don't know, kind of not necessarily push a boundary, but maybe have folks think in a way, because a lot of people that show up to our events already agree with us. Maybe we can push it a little bit further, right? Like, there is an agreement that redlining did happen. I wonder if there can be further agreement. Maybe there's a book, maybe the sequel, maybe there's a book that can, like, kind of push it
Well,
a little bit
there is a
over.
sequel.
Maybe we could do
Yeah.
that.
I'll go get it. We have it on the shelf.
Yeah, I am not sure whether it's what Patrice is looking for, but that's good information to have.
I mean, I'm currently reading another book that does push the boundaries, but it's not specifically housing. And it postulates that the destruction of unions and the destruction of the social safety net has racism baked into it, and that working class white people have been intentionally refocused on blaming Black and brown people for the stunting of the working class economically. But it's not about housing. And I have to finish the book because there may be a chapter about housing. But I'll get that in a second. I'm going to go grab the book, and I'll also look up the title of the book that I'm reading. The author is Heather McGhee, McGhee. But I'll be right back.
Okay, and Lisa, did you want to play off something that was recently said?
Yeah, I was just going to add, you know, where Commissioner Rona was talking about, do we want to do, you know, what we have been doing in the past? Maybe since we're talking about submitting another application for assistance in the marketing, maybe in our application, we could ask for, we're looking for new ideas to expand on, and maybe that will bring more of an audience with us. And I don't know if that's something that would be helpful in the application, but actually looking, because I feel like we got the response from the application, like we got it down. We know what we're gonna do. It was really about marketing and whatnot. But I'm wondering if in that application we can seek assistance with coming up with other topics, new topics, fresh topics, controversial topics to bring people and bring more people into the discussion.
I don't know if that was the aim of the grant. So, but we could throw it in there and see if it flies. So this is, it's not readable. It's called The Sum of Us, the SUM of Us. What Racism Costs Everyone and How We Can Prosper Together by Heather McGhee, McGhee. And I heard her speak at a Surge event about 2 weeks ago, and I have since begun reading her book. And this is the sequel. Is it coming out backwards for you all?
The sequel to The Color. No, we see it correctly. Thanks.
Okay, I see it backwards. Okay. So the sequel exists, and here's the original.
I wonder if there's a way to tie them together. I wonder if there's a way to kind of highlight the sequel to The Color of Law, and maybe take certain excerpts and then somehow, like, tie it into The Sum of Us. I wonder if there's a way that we could do that and also possibly provide like previous reading for folks, like certain, if we could get permission from like those authors to like have maybe a couple pages or two that people can read ahead of hand that they don't have to buy the book for, like they can just like read it, maybe like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages. So that way folks already have the materials ahead of time and they could read it and there could be an argument made. Maybe.
Well, Somerville in the past has done conversations about racism. This is going back into the 90s, I believe. There was a grant and there was hundreds of people involved in this. And it didn't involve reading. So there's a lot of sort of action items and interactive things about racism we could do, but we are the Fair Housing Commission, so we need to link it back to housing. But I like the idea of setting up a study guide that's maybe 25 pages of reading because people are lazy. And you want to get them in the door so that you get their ideas in the room. And I mean, Patrice, do you want to spend a couple of hours floating around titles and pithy quotes and
Yeah,
such?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have an idea. I wonder, since we're going to be talking about racism, if we could actually partner with, who was it, Rona? I can't remember their name. We wanted to partner with them last year. We kind of reached out. No, it was me and Hanale. No, were you there too? I think we wanted to reach out to another organization in Somerville.
Yeah, there's a racial justice organization.
I wonder if we can partner. I wonder if we have time enough to like partner and kind of do a joint event. Maybe.
Yeah,
Are
we do
you
have
folks
enough. We
talking
do have enough
about the
time.
racial and social justice
Yes.
unit in the city government? Is that what is under discussion?
Yep. Yeah, so maybe I'll put a inquiry letter together. And you and I can sign it, Patrice.
Yeah, and they're already familiar with our names because we got a response like last year when we wanted to partner with them. So maybe we can just kind of add on to this and have it be like a new opportunity that we really want to work with them. And this event would be amazing. Yes, because they go hand in hand. Like, how could they not?
do.
Also, they might draw in a larger audience, so we'd be expanding the amount of people we could educate.
So they have more capacity to
that'd be cool.
Get flyering done and get somebody from Cambridge Day to interview us and stuff like that.
Which all goes back to getting this done on an earlier schedule than we did before.
Right.
And it sounds like Commissioners Rona and Patrice are kind of forming a subcommittee on this.
Right.
Thank you. Before we leave the topic about fair housing education, I want to highlight, I think it was Shannon who resent us the spreadsheet that I think Lisa made up about possible events where we could do educational tabling. And I want to encourage people to think wild about this. It may be that you'll say, oh, nobody at that event will want to talk about something, but put it on there anyway, right? Because, I mean, the Art Beat was a natural because it had a bunch of community organizations working on social issues and so forth, tabling at it, and we fit right in. But, in the past, we've also done much more kind of like entertainment oriented activities during the summer or, things like that. So I'm going to encourage people to go back, take a look at that spreadsheet and populate it. Just, anything that you know of that happens in Somerville, if it's even vaguely possible that we could table there, put it on the sheet. And now the online education and outreach, you know, of course, we do Facebook. We know that Facebook these days tends to reach, I mean, in Somerville, a fairly large group, but still it tends to skew a little bit older and a little bit whiter than some of the other media do. And, you know, we've been hoping, and because this is one of the strengths that Commissioner Kay brought with her to the application process, we're hoping that she'll be able to help us some more on that. But possibly that would be something to talk about with the MAPC grant makers also when we're thinking about marketing. Am I right about that? Do you folks agree? Yeah.
Yep.
And I also want to mention that, you know, more like last year into the year before, we were focusing on the lack of enforcement activity. And we put a lot of work into that. And the result, I think, was that we helped the Mass Commission Against Discrimination, MCAD, get some resources that they needed to get more up to date. And we determined that our focus, because we were not going to become a fully equivalent agency with enforcement powers anytime soon, that our focus needs to be on broader educational efforts. And so possibly, you know, I mean, we don't, you don't need to load up this application, you know, and make it long, but if that's a helpful point, it could be included.
Mhm.
So, Janine, please. Oh, unmute, please.
You'd think after all this time I would know to do that. So I know that with tabling, I didn't have a whole lot of ideas, but I was wondering if there might be some way to do something on election day, not this time around, but thinking forward. Not at every site, but if we could target the ones that we know have a large turnout, or you know, something like that, and have a table, because lots of people will be out, and the people who vote are generally somewhat engaged in the community and want to learn. So I did think about that. I think it would be very, very difficult this time around, but certainly something to think about in the future.
Yeah, I have some concerns that it might be considered electioneering, and therefore we wouldn't be able to do it in the building.
Could be. I don't really know. I just
we
know
would
that
have
there's a
to
lot of
check.
people. You
Who
know,
would we check for that? I mean, who
I
is
don't
the
know.
election commissioner for the city of Somerville, or the
Couldn't tell
equivalent?
you.
There's somebody who trains everybody who's on those, you know, doing the polls.
Lisa, please.
That would be Nick Solano, I think his last name is, in elections. So maybe staff can reach out to Nick
Yeah, not this
and
week.
find out whether not for this election.
No,
Um,
I'm thinking next year, because I
yeah.
know a lot of people are out, you know.
Yeah, but I'm also thinking, Janine, as you said, you are thinking outside the box. But maybe does the Somerville Housing Authority do any activities or anything like that we could go in, that the Fair Housing Commission can do tabling at? So I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff
I'm
out
not
there.
sure. I could certainly ask. I mean, we do have some things that are designed for tenants, but they tend to be more like celebratory and not so much informational. So but that doesn't mean it can't happen. I'd have to ask Shannon, because she's usually the one that would be orchestrating. Shannon Bennett
Shannon, right.
would be orchestrating those activities.
Yeah.
So.
Or even at the, it's been a long time since I've been in the housing advocacy world and attended a meeting when people are getting their vouchers, housing choice vouchers.
They still do
but
those
maybe
debriefings.
having, I can't remember if they've done anything about fair housing things like that. So having staff go and do a presentation at these various groups that when they get their I'm just
That's a
thinking
great
outside the
idea.
box,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's just trying to get out there, and that's where it is what, in my experience, is really the Section 8 voucher. Nobody understands that you can't say no
That is
because
so,
they do
it's so
whatever,
infuriating. Yeah.
right? So why not educate when they're getting the voucher and they're about to go searching with the voucher?
Yeah, I can definitely bring that up. I
And
mean, I
that
know
would
they
be
do still have
parallel
those
to-
briefings, so that'd be cool.
I was going to say that would parallel the that we do, only, you know, with a focus on voucher tenants,
For sure.
you know, or at least, you know, can use the training at least as much. Could I request that the two of you put those ideas onto that spreadsheet like right away if
I
you, so you
did.
don't forget, and then
Yeah,
the rest of us can come up with other things to add. Excellent.
I'm
Excellent.
horrible
Thank
with
you.
Google Docs, but I
So
did put something in there about Election Day. So, and I don't know if it got added onto the sheet or not, but I tried.
So, and I'll just note too that Election Day 2025 is municipal elections, and
Ah.
you know that kind of, while the turnout is probably lower than 2024, you know, the audience is probably more tuned into
Yeah,
the kinds
for
of
sure.
issues we're talking about. So, in view of the time, I'm going to ask people if there's any other thoughts that they have on this topic or anything else that we've discussed that you want to make sure you bring up before we work towards concluding the meeting. Patrice, please.
Oh, I just had a quick question. Do we know if there's any like fair housing legislation that's coming up
Oh,
that we should be thinking about for like next year? Anything that we could write a letter for, anything that our local representatives are backing?
Now,
Because that's also an idea.
there's a zoning change that involves not requiring parking that the elder services people are not happy about. And that could potentially be an age discrimination thing, but I don't think it's really going to hit our radar.
I just wanted to know, like, if
Yeah.
if it's a thing that we can maybe incorporate in later years when there is legislation coming up in the House,
Yeah,
that we can keep our eye.
there's unlikely to be more, because right now Somerville has more home rule petitions than any other city in the Commonwealth. And we're starting to get a reputation as the, you know, the last town on the left. And it's just, you know, it's, so we have to be judicious about how often we're going to knock on that door. So I wanted to confirm that Patrice and I are going to meet outside of the commission, and we'll communicate with everybody else through Shannon, and also request that Shannon find what Hanalei and I did last year for the next meeting.
cool.
And then we'll be able to make quick work of that together. And then we can get that piece moving.
So that makes a good segue, because the date of the next meeting is something that we needed to discuss.
Mhm.
Lisa, did
Right,
you want to
Thanksgiving.
bring something up first, or related to it?
Related to tabling, yes. I don't know if I'm frozen or other people are frozen. I'm good. Relating to tabling, I just wanted to let Commissioner Rona know that I'm looking into whether or not the Housing Division, using our supply order, is able to pick up a tent
Oh, nice.
to help.
Yeah,
So
that would be great.
I've got somebody already pricing them out for me, so
Mhm.
fingers crossed we can do
Yeah,
it
I've
within an hour
seen them
budget.
as cheap as about $60.
Oh, really? I haven't
Yeah,
seen it
you have to
yet.
you have to buzz around eBay or
We're gonna
wait for its sale.
Yeah, because of, I'm getting it, we're gonna try to get it to the budget, I'm gonna
Right, you
try to
can't
make
do
it
it.
as little waves as possible, but, I've stressed the need that if we're gonna be out there, we need some shade,
Mhm.
so.
Yeah.
Shannon, please.
Yeah, sorry, I have one other thing before we go to the next meeting scheduled time. The city is conducting a housing needs assessment. And they want to do a stakeholder interview with someone from the Fair Housing Commission. So I was wondering if anyone wanted or has time to do that. I don't know
What's
when it'll
the
be.
kind of questions?
I'm not sure.
Okay, and this is, well, what's the report for?
This is the housing needs assessment. Lisa, do you know how often they do this report?
I wanna say every three, I think it's supposed to be done every 3 to. But I could be wrong. We can double check and send out that information for you.
Yeah, what, do you know the dates on when they want to do this? They want to do it soon?
I think it would be soon-ish.
Okay.
I can follow up and send more information out to
Okay.
everyone.
Because I would do it, except I would really want to nerd out, and I don't have time to do that right now. You know, I would really want to hit them with what the demographic changes in the protected classes are, and that would take some going into the census tracts and things like that, and I don't have the time.
Yeah, I'll follow up and I'll let you all
Okay.
know.
Okay.
Thank you. And I want to say, and I think the other commissioners would agree with me that we really appreciate the way that staff have been back of items that on from one agenda to the next and following up and not not letting things slide. So I want to express that. So the problem with our meeting schedule, yes, if we met on the 4th Thursday next month, it would be Thanksgiving, so that's not happening. But I've also been informed by staff that the 3rd Thursday, they have a prior commitment. Correct?
Yeah, we have an all-day retreat for housing division.
Could we do December 5th?
Well, if we did that, then we also run into the problem that in December, the 4th Thursday is like the
Boxing Day.
the day after Thanksgiving or something like that. I mean,
Day after Christmas.
something like that, something on that order. So, so yeah. So I guess, I mean, the suggestion initially that came from staff was to skip November and go for December 19th. But what do commissioners think?
I would rather do December 5th and January 2nd.
And skip
If-
and skip December. Oh no, December 5th. I got it.
You're
Got
right, right. So
Got it.
November's meeting would be the first Thursday in December, and the December's meeting would be the first. Because missing a meeting, we're starting to get a momentum.
Mhm.
And as soon as we do 2 months, especially with the open meeting law where we can't just like sit in the living room and hash it out together without you all guys recording us. I'm concerned that we're gonna lose some momentum. So what are the people who are on the payroll and get inconvenienced by this need? And then what do we need as volunteer commissioners?
For me, the 5th and then January 2nd would work. And then would we be back on track for?
Yeah, and then we would do one the end of January is what I'm
Yeah.
proposing.
And there are 5 Thursdays in January, so we could do either the 23rd or the 30th, depending on how people are
I would
feeling
do the
about a quick
30th.
turnaround time.
Yeah, I think the 30th is good. Yep, you're all right with that, Patrice. Okay.
So
Janine?
the proposal
Yeah,
that
I
I'm
think that'd be
hearing
fine.
is to meet December 5th is our next meeting. January 2nd is the meeting after that. And get back to the end of the month schedule on either the 23rd or the 30th, depending how much work we have to do in January. Lisa, please.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to ask, in past years, has the Fair Housing staff provided like an annual calendar for a meeting schedule to the commissioners? And is it done on a calendar year? Is it done on a fiscal year?
I think it's
anybody
done
know?
when we sort of push for it. I think it's been
Okay.
a little random.
Okay.
It was
So
either
would
a
it be
calendar year or an
helpful?
academic year.
Okay, would it be helpful if we try to put together some a calendar? It's I prefer calendar year just because
Mhm.
everything changes in the
Yeah.
calendar, right? Everybody switches over their calendar. Would it be helpful if Shannon and I were to create a schedule for calendar year 25
2025.
Right.
to be able to present to the commissions for commissioners next month?
Yeah.
Or at our
Sure.
next meeting?
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
great. Yeah,
Thank you.
because these minutes will have the next 3 meetings. But if the minutes after have the rest of the year, it also informs the public in case somebody from the public really wants to be here. It becomes public information, and that's, again, within our mission.
So, and I would just add, and I know you have done this before, but please, check for Jewish holidays or other culturally significant days, as well as state holidays and days off work. But so I'm just restating what I think is the consensus of the group that we're going to meet December the 5th, January 2nd, and January 30th or the 23rd if we decide at the meeting on the 2nd that it's necessary to meet quickly, and that staff are going to look at the rest of 2025 and make a proposal for the meetings for calendar year 2025. Am I saying that correctly, and do people agree with that?
Yes. And
Yes, and yes.
Yes.
Okay. Then I think we know when we're meeting, and we thank the staff once more. Does anybody have any other announcements they want to mention? Do we have any recent birthdays, wedding anniversaries, other happy occasions you want to mention?
Well, I retire in 9 weeks and 2 days, which equals, where am I on the calendar here? 69 days, but who's counting?
Good for you.
68 days, but who's counting? I had to look at the calendar for that. It's on my calendar. And I got to say to my Rent-A-Geek, I have a virtual assistant who's my computer person. And I'm like, so with 10 weeks to go, and he was like, so it's official.
Yay. Good for
9
you.
weeks and a couple of days.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks. Well, it hasn't happened yet, but I'm smelling it.
So today's meeting went a little bit more than an hour, but I think it was justified. We got a lot of stuff done. And I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
I will make a
I-
motion
I-
to adjourn.
Okay. Well,
I
they moved it.
recognize
One of them
Patrice made a
seconded, and
motion.
I'll
Patrice
confirm.
made a motion to adjourn. Janine seconded. Rona agrees. I'll make it unanimous. The meeting is adjourned at 4:15 p.m. Thank you, everybody. Thank you especially to the subcommittee we'll look forward to hearing about your work, and we'll reconvene on December the 5th.
Thanks,
Okay.
guys. Have a great
Thank
day.
you.
Night.
Bye.
How to leave this meeting? How do I just? Oh, right here.